There is no question it is a terrorism investigation, and tonight who is behind it remains a mystery. But the FBI now has enough information to go public and ask for help. Just a little while ago, they released images of two men they are calling persons of interest. Jennifer Tryon is in Boston tonight with the very latest. Jen?
Donna, this investigation is literally unfolding this very minute. The FBI has just released photos and video of two men they believe may be behind the Boston Marathon bombings. The first suspect wearing a black hat, the second one wearing a white hat, both carrying backpacks seen walking together along the race route. One sets down a backpack just minutes before the explosion. They're releasing this video now because the FBI needs the public's help in identifying them.
Today, we are enlisting the public's help to identify the two suspects. After a very detailed analysis of photo, video, and other evidence, we are releasing photos of these two suspects. They are identified as Suspect 1 and Suspect 2. They appear to be associated. Suspect 1 is wearing a dark hat. Suspect 2 is wearing a white hat. Suspect 2 set down a backpack at the site of the second explosion just in front of the Forum restaurant.
It's been 24 hours since the FBI made any information public, and that, for the people here in Boston, seems like an eternity. But they didn't sit idle. Instead, today, they stood in solidarity with the president. Rather than sit and wait for answers, thousands in Boston instead opted to stand together. Emotions still raw for many. Surrounding the church was all they could do.
Doesn't really feel like there's any other option at this point.
Anyone hoping for a glimpse of the president outside the church didn't get it. Quietly through the back, the president entered the service, eventually taking to the pulpit with a very public message.
If they sought to intimidate us, to terrorize us, to shake us from those values that Duvall described, the values that make us who we are as Americans, well, it should be pretty clear by now that they picked the wrong city to do it. Not here in Boston.
He spoke to a congregation made from victims' families, city officials, and law enforcement, but the words were heard in the church, on the street, and the world over.
We're watching, and we're listening, and we're praying. So, you know, the church is out here as well.
He spoke of each victim like he knew them personally: Crystal Campbell, Lindsay Liu, Martin Richard, and to the 16 people still in hospital.
With you, your country is with you. We will all be with you as you learn to stand and walk and, yes, run again. Of that, I have no doubt. You will run again. You will run again, because that's what the people of Boston are made of.
Most strangers to those inside and their suffering. But this woman knows their grief.
I have family that I lost in the Twin Towers, so.
Since Monday's explosions, she's been transported back to those feelings of loss and terror.
I don't think anybody can explain how they feel.
You know how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And an outpouring of grief still lines the streets that investigators say hold the answers.
Jennifer, the release of these photos of the suspects, it's clearly progress, but the bombing was Monday. It's now Thursday. How painstaking a process is this for investigators?
Very. That's why it's taking so long. There's hundreds of people just in the images that they've released, and they're very careful not to be pinpointing any one person and accusing them of terror if they're not really sure that they might be behind the bombings. So the FBI wants the public to get a good look at those faces because they're confident it could be them.
All right, Jen Tryon in Boston tonight. Thank you.